This amazing building is the Dallara Academy to the southwest of Parma in Italy. Giampaolo Dallara is probably most famous for designing the first mid-engine supercar in 1966. This, the beautiful Lamborghini Miura. But what if I told you that today, Dallara is also responsible for the entire IndyCar grid, and Indy Next, and they did the design for NASCAR.
But that's still only scratching the surface of what Dallara does.
In the world of endurance racing, Ferrari is clearly very happy with Dallara's work on the 499P that's won the last 3 Le Mans. Oh, and they also did the Cadillac that was on pole this year, and the BMW, and they're going to do the new McLaren as well. Then you have all the Formula 2 cars, and all the Formula 3 cars, and in Japan the Super Formula cars and Super Formula Light as well. And of course they're involved with Formula 1, with the Haas F1 team. They're going to be involved with Cadillac too next year. In terms of road cars, well, you might have heard of things like the Bugatti Veyron and Chiron, and they've been involved with Alfa Romeo and Maserati and plenty more that they can't talk about. Oh, and if you've seen a SpaceX launch, well, you've seen a bit of Dallara heading for zero gravity.
It is an extraordinary company, and many have probably admired its work for years without even realising it. So, when somewhere that's got that sort of backstory decides to put its own name on the nose of a road car, it's probably worth paying attention. This is the Dallara Stradale. This is its even quicker sibling. This episode is driven by Hagerty, who, in case you don't know, provide car insurance that's designed by enthusiasts for enthusiasts. So, if you have a special car that you don't drive every day, like one of these perhaps, then take a trip to hagerty.com/Henry. Or pick up the phone, give them a call and speak to a like-minded enthusiast about a quote. We'll come back to the Stradale shortly, but a quick look around the sprawling Dallara factory is in order first, because as I'm sure you can imagine, it's a pretty interesting place. Dallara has 3 main engineering areas of expertise, the first of which is vehicle dynamics. And for that, one of these things is quite important these days.
This amazing piece of equipment, which looks as though it should develop extraterrestrial flying saucers, is in fact the most advanced race car simulator in the world. Yes, there are ones from Formula 1 teams, but they're designed around just one type of car. This has to develop everything. And what's more, Dallara has 2 of them.
The other one, in case you're wondering, is in the USA, in Dallara's other facility at Indianapolis. Anyway, the second area of expertise is composite materials.
These are carbon fibre autoclaves. That one, big enough to fit an entire chassis in. But they've also got another 5 in the manufacturing facility just up the road.
It's not just producing different types of composites either, there is a whole branch of the company based around research into it. And the third main area of expertise? Well, that's a bit trickier to show.
This is arguably the most secretive building on the entire Dallara site. It's the aerodynamics department. And although there are about 250 people working in here, each of these rooms is partitioned. So only the engineers working on each individual project can gain access to those rooms. And arguably the most secret part of all is just down there, the wind tunnel.
Dallara employs roughly 800 people in total now, overseen by Andrea Petremoli, who has been CEO since leaving IBM in 2017. The chief technical officer is Aldo Costa, quite a shy man who has an incredible pedigree, having been engineering director of Mercedes F1 throughout its astonishingly dominant era between 2014 and 2018. However, there is one man to whom everyone at the company still defers. Giampaolo Dallara is now 89 years old, yet he still turns up to the factory every day, usually in this, which is perhaps a throwback to his first car, which was
Fiat 500.
Before setting up his own company, he worked for Maserati, Lamborghini and initially Ferrari, and it was on his first day at Maranello in 1959 that he learnt one of the great lessons of his career.
I met Enzo Ferrari not in his office, but in the meeting office. And in this meeting office, on the walls, there were not the trophies or the photo of the victories. There was a collection of broken parts, pistons, connecting rods, bearing, suspension arm. Mr. Ferrari has not been clear with me, but I believe he was telling me you can make mistake, but you have to learn something to every mistake.
And it's a lesson you'll find still in evidence in the Dallara factory today.
This collection of apparently beautiful objects is actually the shelf of mistakes. Not to blame and shame, but so people can learn, because a mistake is only really a problem if it's repeated.
And how about the Dallara Stradale, his carbon-tubbed but four-cylinder sports car that costs around €200,000?
We made if you want to drive, you can do that. It is not because it is not because you have to move from a place to the other. I want to drive, I want to see around. It's not the car that you have to use when you go to work. It's on the weekend.
A fine concept. However, there was a fairly major problem for Dallara if it didn't want to risk damaging its main business.
We did not want to be considered a competitor of our customer, because our more important customer in the area of carbon fiber or aerodynamics are the manufacturer of the region, Ferrari, Lamborghini, Maserati, Pagani, but also Renault, Porsche, Audi. We told to our people, of our customer, it's a car without door, and so it's nothing to do with it. We will not compete with you.
The Stradale factory, where they produce around 50 cars a year, was actually built on the site of the original 1972 Dallara garage. It's just down the road from the modern factory in the centre of Verano de Melegari, where Mr. Dallara was born and still lives in a house just next door. The heart of the Stradale is, of course, the chassis. The central carbon monocoque weighs just 90 kilos or 198 pounds, and not all carbon fibre is born equal, because this has 5 different types in its construction, from forged to resin transfer moulding to prepreg.
Idea was for us, you need to select the right technology for the right purpose. Every component has a scope, and with this scope you need to decide the right technology. So for example, the interior of the monocoque is done in prepreg and is already painted because it's part of the interior, let's say, perception. And this is not structural, it's just to cover everything. So we decided to use this technology with this painting process. The other part, that is the bay itself, is a prepreg because it can grant all the full performance of the, let's say, crash performance and side protection of the driver. Because you see, without doors, it's like a real Formula car. You can complete cover the shoulders and protect the driver, because safety for us is one of the main drivers while we design a car. And then, for example, other structural parts inside the rollover, the rear rollover structure and the front rollover structure are long fiber compression molding. It is something that we are very expert. Compression molding is quite a difficult process because complex shape is not that easy to be done, and especially if you use long fiber like prepreg. So the challenge was to use the same prepreg we use on autoclave, but in a compression molding process that allow us to reduce to 10 minutes the process instead of 2 hours of laminations and cookings. So we mixed where we need, and the performance is also outstanding because we designed already the monocoque having in mind the safety requirements of a racing car. So for example, the rear rollover structure can withstand more than 13 tons of loads. So we designed and we calculate, and also we made a test as a Formula car, as a racing car, because it is in our DNA. We cannot avoid to do so.
The tub is made in-house in the facility Dallara reserves for the best of the best, things like hypercar and Formula One chassis.
And this is the bodywork. These 7 pieces are all that you would need to change if you wanted to swap it from, well, exposed weaved green to yellow, for example.
Our car for today is chassis number 2 in a beautiful bluish silver. It has the latest updates like louvres over the front arches, but also has 100,000 kilometres under its wheels. And it's sort of 4 cars in one, because with the aid of a spanner and maybe a friend, owners can swap from no windscreen through Roadster to Targa to this fully enclosed canopy, which makes you feel like you're in one of those classic space helmets, allowing you a fabulous, unrestricted view of the scenery.
This bit of Emilia Romagna is absolutely stunning. The sort of the flatter plains down towards Modena are not that great to look at, but up here in the hills it's just beautiful. The fact that the chassis is the main event on this car is sort of exacerbated at every single point. So the fact that obviously there is no door to open, you step over the side of it. Once you're in here, it wraps around you really nicely, and then the way they've trimmed it so it actually feels almost like you're sort of slotting your legs down into a single seater. Obviously this seat is fixed, so you belt yourself down, you feel absolutely at one with the tub, and then obviously the pedals move to accommodate you.
Although it's simple, it is a beautifully trimmed interior. And while there's no radio, there is, thankfully on a day like this, air conditioning.
In some ways you're faced with quite a sort of a complex car, I suppose the steering wheel, the screen there, but actually you realise there's a simplicity to it all. All these buttons are very easy to use, they have effectively one function. The switch is down here, there's just 2 driving modes, normal or sport. Normal knocks the power back by about 100 brake horsepower, sport gives you the full 400 brake horsepower, 369 pounds-feet of torque.
And perhaps we should tackle the 4-cylinder, 2.3-litre, turbocharged Ford EcoBoost engine.
At first it seems like a slightly odd decision to have this engine in such an exotic chassis, but there are very good reasons for it.
This engine, this precise engine, is the perfect one that can match the lightness and the aero concept. Because we were searching for a 4-cylinder that can deliver 400 horsepower, and this was capable to do it. And the other aspect was both the lightness of the engine. This is only less than 160 kilograms weight. It is quite light. Also the torque level is impressive, but also the other aspect, crucial aspect, was the compactness of the engine. Because we had in mind, even before starting designing the car, how the rear diffuser should be designed, how big space we need to have the diffuser, and because the car also for the lightness has no doors, because this gives you more stiffness, torsional stiffness, not paying load, not paying weight, and then also style perspective, if you have no doors. Okay, for style, you want to have this very, very high, but otherwise you cannot jump in, so you need to lower this. But if you lower this, if you have an engine that is quite high, with a big diffuser, the results will be big volume there and small volume there. So we need to balance these 2 dimensions, and this engine was the perfect one also for this, let's say, envelope. And so for some perspective, even if it is an aero car, and the light car is also engine-centric in some perspective. Only this engine can allow to do this layout.
And of course, just like Mr. Dallara's other cars, the Miura, the Lancia Stratos and the Fiat X19, it had to be mounted transversely. It's a bit of a signature. Because Dallara doesn't do engine tuning, Bosch was given responsibility for that side of things. It's somehow appropriate as the big German company is, like Dallara, present in so much of the motoring world, but often unseen.
It is surprisingly linear in its delivery. It doesn't give you that sort of worry that you're going to have to manage boost everywhere. Yes, there's a bit of lag, but essentially it's just torque whenever you want it. No, the engine doesn't have a particularly musical soundtrack. It's pretty angry. Certain turbo chuffs and whistles. The gearbox, so you can have a manual, and I think I'd probably prefer it, but this automated manual, so it's not a double clutch, is much better than I thought it would be. I love the paddles as well. It's a beautiful mechanical feel to them.
I did try the manual, and it's a very standard Ford shift, which is fine, but I think the case can easily be made for 3 pedals or 2. And talking of pedals, I would have liked a bit more response at the top of the travel on the brake pedal, which just didn't seem to match the incredible sense of immediacy that the rest of the car has almost as soon as you get in.
The sense of connection that you get from just sitting in it continues with the steering. It's wonderful, unassisted, and so much feel. Around the dead ahead, there's absolutely zero play. You're never left in any doubt about how much grip you have.
And the grip really is prodigious, despite relatively skinny 205 section tyres at the front and 255s at the rear.
The most extraordinary thing of all is the vertical compliance on this. So it's like a running spike that you feel you could do a marathon in, I suppose, because it just soaks up the bumps unbelievably well. I'm not saying it's a cushy ride. Far from it. You feel the bumps here and there, but the bigger things are just taken in its stride. There's almost no pitch or roll. It stays so flat, and yet the wheels cope with these terrible roads. This is a car that has been designed not only around the sort of 3 core engineering principles of Dallara, so aerodynamics, vehicle dynamics, and then carbon composites, but it's also been designed around these roads. The roads that the CEO, the engineers, all drive to and from the factory on. It is absolutely spooky. I'm not sure I've ever driven anything quite like it to that extent. The way it just stays so flat, and yet you look at some of the big bumps, the subsidence, and you think, oh, it's going to catch its nose or ground out, or you sort of brace for impacts, expect something to catch, but it doesn't.
The Stradale has classic double wishbones all round and tractive dampers. But, of course, it's not just about what you've got, but how you use it.
At each corner there's a scale. There are also lasers for checking the ride height on the car, and the suspension is then set up so it's got double wishbones all round, so the toe, the camber, the ride height, all of that is set up to incredible precision, to Formula car levels of precision, because that's one of the key cornerstones of Dallara. The steering, the other thing you notice is that it's not darty, it's not ridiculously sharp or quick. There's a wonderful linearity to it, and that's something that is across other cars developed by a certain man, Loris Bugatti.
He's not a Dallara employee, but has close ties to them, and he's been responsible for the way a slew of incredible supercars and hypercars handle over the years. And I really think you can tell that this is one of his.
The way this covers ground is extraordinary. The lightness pays dividends, so does the ride. This really is a distillation of Dallara, its principles and its place.
The Stradale is a bit Lotus 211 here, a bit supercar there, and a bit single-seater or Le Mans prototype in other ways. You could say that with its turbo 4-cylinder, carbon tub and unassisted steering, it's a much improved version 2.0 of another car Dallara helped to develop, the Alfa 4C. Ultimately, it's a bit of an enigma, but it is brilliant to drive. Oh, and one other thing I nearly forgot to mention about the Stradale is that it does have some luggage space behind the seats. Just enough to carry a couple of crash helmets. This is the Autodromo Riccardo Paletti, just across the river from the factory. At a mere 1.4 miles long, it's not Mugello or Monza, but it is rather fun on a sunny evening.
This is the EXP, so this is the track-only version.
Stripped out, pumped up, FIA certified, this is a car capable of lapping Mugello a second faster than a GT3 race car on a qualifying lap.
So now we've got 500 brake horsepower and 553 pounds-feet of torque.
The engine, well, pretty much only the block remains from the original. Everything else is different. Single mass flywheel, new turbos, dry sump now as well. Boy, is it quick. As well as the engine, we're now on a slick tyre, actually slightly narrower than before. So 200 at the front, 245 at the rear, specially developed with Pirelli. And it can pull up to 3G of lateral acceleration.
That's also thanks to the increase in downforce, which is now up from an already impressive 820 kilos or 1,800 pounds to a mighty 1,270 kilos or 2,800 pounds, flat out at 180 miles an hour. That's about a third more than the weight of the car.
It's extraordinary. It does still feel approachable. There's that little bit of push at the front of the way it's set up at the moment. And actually, you've still got that lovely rate of response from the steering, so it's not massively twitchy at the front end, which is nice. So it gives you confidence when you get into it, but my word, it takes some building up to really lean on the grip, particularly in the braking zones. I love the fact you can really work it mid-corner as well. That's the nice thing I think about having the slightly slower steering. It's not intimidating like that. Love this chicane through here, just flick it in, flick it back the other way. The grip is amazing and it's so stable over those bumps.
That's despite having 50% firmer springs and half the ride height of the road car.
Love having this sort of amazing view out as well, really sort of lets you look through the corners. Bosch, traction control and ABS on this as well. Bosch has still done all the engine development for it.
It's basically only the block that remains, with all new internals, new turbos and a single mass flywheel. There is much more noticeable lag and then boost, which you need to manage, and the gear changes are much harsher as well, but there is no doubting the performance.
I love the look of this without a windscreen as well. It reminds me of those sort of latter year Targa Florio Alphas. The other thing you can do is take some of the parts that have been developed for this, like the bigger rear wing, the centre lock wheels, and actually put them onto a Stradale as well. They now offer that as an option. I love that this just gives you a glimpse into the world of Dallara's race cars.
The Stradale in both road and EXP forms has a bit of magic about it, but it's undoubtedly something of a deep cut. You won't find the value on a spec sheet. You need to understand the reasons it has a 4-cylinder and accept the associated emotional compromises. You probably need to be a bit of a ride and handling person. And above all, I think you probably have to love the backstory, to know what Dallara has done, still does, and realise that this is standing on the shoulders of motorsport legends, both automotive and human.